Hello, I'm Peter Jackson, and I'm just wanting to say how excited I am to be an executive producer on the Halo movie. I'm just so much looking forward to being part of this experience of making the Halo film, and we'll be using all of our state-of-the-art facilities at Weta Digital and Weta Workshop down here in New Zealand, and helping to guide this film through to what I hope will be a really incredible, memorable cinematic experience.
Hello and welcome to the Cancelled Movie Report, the documentary podcast series that talks about the best movies that Hollywood never made. My name is Michael Campbell, but you can call me Cambo. And joining me, as always, is actor and comedian Eden Porter.
Thank you very much for having me, Cambo.
Oh, thank you for coming back. Now, this is part 2 of our Cancelled Movie Report on Peter Jackson's failed Halo movie.
Including our special guest voice cast. That's right, we've got Stephanie Bendixsen, known as Hex, and we've got Angus Ronald, who's might be known to others as Goose.
Yes, they are Australian video game royalty.
Pretty much.
And they've come in to help us out with some of the voice work. So make sure you listen to part 1 first. But if you need a little reminder, here's a quick recap.
We cut to the cryo chamber in the Pillar of Autumn, and someone places both their hands outside the chamber and pulls themselves out.
Reporting as ordered, sir.
Good to see you, Master Chief. Let me get you up to speed. We're in the shit. So here's what's gonna happen. You're gonna get Cortana off this ship and keep her safe from the enemy.
Cortana has uploaded into his helmet, and they are now kind of one, I guess.
The ship blasts out of the Pillar of Autumn and makes its way down to the ring world below.
Sir, request information on the whereabouts of...
Keys, MIA. Everything else is need to know. And before you ask, you don't need to know shit.
They find out that Captain Keyes is alive and is more than likely being interrogated to get intel on Earth. Master Chief and Cortana are coming along for this rescue mission. They arrive just as an elite is about to execute him. The elite hears the cell door open, he turns his head, and all he sees is Major Silvia's M6D pistol go off in his face.
Too hot to get Master Chief and 4 squads of Marines in there.
Piece of cake.
If Halo is a weapon, we need to prevent the Covenant from being able to use it. Major Silver and the Hell Jumpers will be coming with me.
Now, let's get back into the film. Eden, I'm glad we've had a week, because there was a lot. There was a lot that happened in part 1.
Oh, there was a lot of action.
Yeah, and sparse dialogue.
And a lot of BA action at that, mate.
BA, badass action.
Bad ass.
It just becomes economic to shorten it to BA at this point. Because it's going to come up so frequently.
Exactly. And the thing is, the other thing we've noticed is that Master Chief is consistently the only person left alive in a battle.
Yeah. That's probably my favorite part, is that he constantly walks away as the only living member of any battle that he's in.
Exactly.
And he's been in many battles.
Oh, already?
And we're only halfway through a movie.
I think he's been in like 5 or 6 major battles already.
And I don't know how long this movie would have been, because everything you described in part 1 is a movie's worth of stuff. Because it ends with them rescuing the person.
Yeah. That's your Act 3 sort of payoff.
Yeah. But no, it's mid-Act 2.
There are things in this film, in Act 1, that is a climax. Like, it legitimately, the battle is so epic. It's described as like the most violent thing ever. This thing happens, these people's head blows off.
You know what this movie is nothing but third acts.
Yeah. It's a new genre. It's just a third act movie. Yeah, exactly. It's great. So when we left, there are 2 missions going on.
Yes.
Okay. So we've got Captain Keyes, Major Silvia, and the Hell Jumpers. They're heading off to find out what's underneath Halo's surface that's scaring the Covenant.
The weapon, they think.
Yeah, there's like, something down there that really scares them, and it's watch out. Whereas the Marines and Master Chief, they head for Halo's control center, right? Because they're going to try and like activate the weapon themselves and make sure the Covenant doesn't get it. So there's 2 missions going on right now. So we're going to stick with Master Chief and the Marines at this point. So we're in the Pelican dropship. We're flying low and fast over water towards a beach. Now this is your classic beach landing battle, okay?
So we're thinking like Normandy.
It's Normandy. Yeah. It's 100% Normandy. The Covenant are goose stepping in the corner. So the Covenant, they're already laying down fire.
Can I just ask, at one point, does it do the sound dropping in and out as someone goes underwater and back up above water? That's the classic beach storming army scene.
The grenade going off near it goes...
And then...
It's all the way through. So we've got our Normandy beach landing, right? Guns are firing, grenades are sticking to people. There's overwhelming noise everywhere. Then Master Chief, he burst forth from the back of the Pelican dropship, driving a Warthog.
Yes, so Warthog, the big, like, four-wheel drive-esque vehicle.
Yeah,
more like a Jeep.
Yeah. And it's got the machine gun on the back, and they've got a Marine on that firing away.
Master Chief is always bursting out from behind people, isn't he?
He loves the burst. He absolutely loves the burst.
He's like a starburst, isn't he?
Starburst Chief, they call it. But so he's flying out, right? The Warthog lands on the sand.
Taste the rainbow!
Exactly. Now that's an ad campaign I want to be part of. Now, they're burning along the beats and they're like just mowing down Covenant left, right, and centre. There's guys bouncing off the front of the car. The gunner in the back is just mowing everyone down. They see an opening to the temple area and they make a beeline for it. We hear the Marines going, okay, There's a great line here by one of the Marines. Just as they're going into all this craziness, one of the Marines from the back yells out, "Cancel Christmas!" I don't know, Cambo.
Is that...
I don't know.
Is that unrelated? He just wanted to make that point as well.
Well, he was Jewish.
Yeah. So he screams out, "Cancel Christmas."
Cancel Christmas. That's a line in the movie.
Fair enough.
It's great. Love it.
I was waiting for you to say the second part of the line.
Oh, really? No.
Cancel Christmas, because it's like, you're going to be dead, or like...
Yeah, Santa's not coming. Or you've been bad, or
No,
whatever.
just cancel Christmas.
No, just cancel Christmas. You didn't get the memo. And then it just has a line that just says, "They fight until all Covenant are dead." So it likes to set up these fight scenes and then it just throws them away
in a sentence.
Yeah, it just...
But because you can imagine, Alex talking to Neil. Alex the writer, Neil the director. Yes, and then they fight till they're all dead. Handball that one to him. You work that bit out.
Yeah, you make that. You make that work.
Yeah, they fight until they're all dead.
So now the Halo entrance to this sort of chamber.
Yep.
Amongst these alien ruins. So they step inside and the chamber becomes larger and it's got all these etchings and swirls and patterns on the walls, right? Some of the architecture is luminescent. It's sort of emitting this sort of light as they walk through. They slowly make their way down further and further and it becomes sort of this vast chasm. Cortana leads them through the darkness. They enter a cavernous chamber and it's only lit by these slim, sort of elongated, twin-pointed shapes around the room, right? They're all sort of scattered around the room. Master Chief stops. He realizes this is the perfect place for an ambush. He yells at them, "Create a defensive position." So he yells at them all to create a defensive perimeter, right? So they're all sort of backed up to each other.
In like a big circle?
Yeah. They can't see anything though. Mm-hmm. They're sort of looking out. The silence just builds tension as they're all sort of just looking out into the darkness.
Is there the one nervous guy?
Oh, yeah. He's got the jittering gun. Except he doesn't fire accidentally. Then one of the elongated twin triangles detaches itself from the wall. And it starts moving towards them. It's an energy sword. And it's coming this way.
Ooh.
Master Chief yells out,
"Stealth elites, open fire!"
and they all start just blasting away. So stealth elites are something in the game. They're elites, but they're invisible. You can't really see them. So all these swords start coming off the walls, and they all start sort of coming from every direction. And there's a huge... You can tell what's happening, Cambo. Yeah. There's going to be a pretty big bloody battle now. Yeah. But the difference is this battle...
It's been 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah, it's been 10 minutes. Okay, you got your battle o'clock going on. The difference with this battle, because they like to mix it up, this is basically, it becomes a hand-to-hand bloody sort of... mono and mono sort of thing.
Most battles, apart from the Normandy beach, have just mainly been like shootouts
Shoot 'em up.
in a loading dock.
Yeah. There's a lot of shootouts.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shootouts. Whereas this, they decided to mix it up a little bit. And as you know, what would happen in a situation like this, Master Chief then picks up his own energy sword, and then they have some energy sword battles.
Yeah, great.
It'd be pretty cool.
And energy sword, they're the ones that we saw earlier with the split down the middle,
yes,
right?
the split down the middle and the two-pointed things
yep.
there. And it's a classic touchstone from the games, those energy sword battles that you have with your mates.
Those and the spiky guns.
Yeah, and the spiky guns. Yeah. There hasn't been a spiky gun yet.
Hasn't been a spiky gun
No. I just tell you right now, the spiky gun, the Needler, is my favourite Halo weapon of all time.
Ooh.
I do love it.
Is that a controversial opinion, or is that...
Yes, very. It's a pretty shit gun. But I love it. I've killed my little brother many times. So this huge bloody hand-to-hand battle erupts. The cuttings left, right, and centre. Heads start flying. Gusts are bursting out, right? Then they're sort of quiet. Master Chief looks around, and at this time he's got a few remaining men. He's not quite the last person left there, but all the stealth elites are dead. He then tells the remaining guys, he said, Marines, you stay here. Make a defensive perimeter again, and you hold this sort of corridor. I'm going to go deeper with Cortana. We're going to go deep into the temple alone. We then cut back, so that's one mission, Cambo, and now we cut back to Captain Keyes, Major Silvia, and the Hell Jumpers, right? So they're actually, they love a subterranean cavern, because they're also in a subterranean cavern in this film. A lot of it becomes a subterranean cavern at many points in this film. So they're working on a panel to a large closed door. Suddenly, it clicks and slides open. They walk inside, but then we switch to someone's POV, watching the Marines. They turn as they hear sort of a slithering and scuttling, right? So the POV sort of makes its way around the room at astonishing speed. The special forces, they sort of start opening fire in all directions.
So they know something's there.
They know something's there. They can hear this slithering stuff, but they can't see anything. Whereas we're watching the Marines sort of start panicking, all these hell jumpers.
Is it the one little nervous guy again?
Oh, yeah, there's definitely a nervous guy. So they're shooting in all directions. POV gets closer and closer and closer. And finally, it goes all the way down into Captain Keyes' face, right between his eyes. We see the horror in his face. And in the reflection of his eyeball, we see the Flood.
The Flood.
Yeah.
That name sounds familiar. Yeah. It's one of the things I remember.
Are they're sort of like a parasitic sort of spore-like thing.
Yeah, they're just like a gloop.
Yeah, they're a bit of a gloop. This is one form of them. They take many forms, but this is sort of the one that's sort of coming after them at the moment.
Okay, but yeah, they seem quite small.
They are quite small.
But many in number.
Yeah, exactly. Now you're
like
getting it. Yeah, exactly. So they're all under attack. Now we cut back to Master Chief and Cortana, and this time they're alone and they've entered this large chamber, the silent cartographer.
Silent cartographer. Wow. These Forerunners had truly amazing technology at their disposal. Puts my holographic version to shame, doesn't it?
Somewhat.
Okay, give me a few moments to access...
Cortana?
Chief, it's... glorious.
Can you find the control center?
The control center? Yes, the control center, of course. Oh. Surprising. I can hard dock there. Place my chip in the receptacle.
I'm not 100% on this.
Not 100%? When precisely did you turn from a killing machine into a probabilities analyst?
You're acting strange.
I have just brushed against a system more complex than your barbarian mind can conceive. I am unable to explore it fully without a hard dock.
If I plug you in, I don't know what it's gonna do to you.
You don't need to know what it's going to do to me. You don't need to know shit. Chief, I wish you could feel this. You can't imagine the wealth of information. So much. So fast. Amazing. Extraordinary. The Covenant are correct. The Forerunners are gods. I can see it now. Whoever controls the Halo controls the fate of the universe.
Cortana?
Ooh. So Cortana, like, there's this sort of big electrical sort of impulse and everything sort of whites out. And so do you sort of get what's happened there?
So she has kind of come into connection with this old system.
Yeah, the sort of the hub, the central hub of this. Yeah.
It is like far in advance of anything that they've ever seen.
Yep.
And so his apprehension is when he puts her in, he doesn't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and she starts getting weird. She starts being like
glitchy and
and she's like, you don't need to know shit.
Wary,
yeah, exactly. So she's getting frightened. He's a bit wary, and then she sort of absorbs all this information, and then there's this huge sort of boom, and she's gone. So Master Chief wakes up with no Cortana. The console is damaged. He sort of looks around. He doesn't know what to do. So he makes his way back towards the Marines he left. He sort of calls out to them. No one's answering. Then he arrives and he sees blood everywhere. But there are no bodies. Cambo, there's no
But to be
bodies.
clear, he's the last one alive.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's his MO.
Do you reckon if there was one more guy alive, you'd just quickly shoot him? Like, last one alive again, eh?
Well, you do say that, Cambo. Suddenly, one last Marine.
Oh my god, I should write scripts.
You definitely should. He runs out in front of Master Chief, startles him, then disappears back into the shadows. Master Chief quickly follows him down a few corridors. He then finds the young Marine huddled in the corner of a chamber, blood-soaked, with eyes bulging. Master Chief approaches him, tries to calm him down. He asks, what happened? But before he can get an answer, the Marine grabs the M6D pistol from Master Chief's side, jams it in his own mouth, and blows his brains out.
Wow. And now at this point, Master Chief is the last person alive?
Big time.
Yeah, great. Oh, thank God.
He was getting too many friends. So obviously this young Marine with his M60 pistol, he's
seen something, yeah.
Or he's seen some shit.
Yeah.
But we don't know what he's seen.
Yeah.
But
what
we can
happened
imagine
when Master Chief and Cortana went away? Something's gone
wrong,
with
mate. Something's gone wrong. Then we hear the slithering noise. So we start hearing this noise again. Master Chief, he turns to the door, and there he sees the Flood. Right, this is in infection form. So these are these little guys, right, that are flying around, and they start gushing through the door. Now, in this script, because they're called the Flood, usually you'd say, oh, they flood into the room. Because they're called the Flood, he's gone with gushing. Which I think is, he's got the old thesaurus out. I think it's a good pickup there. So they're gushing into the chamber, and there's hundreds of them coming in to this small door. Although they're very easy to kill in this form, right? So the infection form, they basically pop like balloons when you get sort of a bullet near them.
And is Master Chief always strapped with a weapon, I imagine?
Always. So he's got his assault rifle there. He starts just blasting away. Wave after wave just sort of pop and explode in front of him. There's only one left at the end. So he basically wipes them all out. And there's one little one left. He runs out of ammo. And it's coming right at him.
Oh, no.
And so he grabs it with his hand and he snaps its neck with his thumb.
And with that, here's the last one left alive. Pretty BA though.
Mate, pretty BA. The old snapping of the neck with his hand. It's good.
As a power move to snap a neck with a thumb.
I know, it's just like boom.
It's so beneath me.
It's just like popping a... What do you pop like that?
Like a cork.
Yeah, like a cork.
Yeah.
Very good. Or a push pop for some of our older viewers out there.
Those who want a little bit of 90s nostalgia.
Correct.
Don't push me, Eden.
Oh, push a push pop. Is that Australian?
I don't know. International listeners, let us know.
We'll find out. He then takes a beat, but only for a moment, as something else enters the chamber. The shadow of Marines. But something's...
No, this is fine. Marines are good.
Well, you say that, but something...
I'll never change my opinion. Marines are good.
Yeah, that's definitely right. Except when they're not good.
No, but they're always good, Eden.
No, but these guys, there's something wrong with them, Cambo. Yeah, that's right. These are infected Marines. The Flood has taken them over. So now we start to get an understanding of... So the Flood, these little infection ones, they take you over and then you become a version of that.
Flood Marine, yeah.
Yeah.
How do I describe this?
Dog's breakfast?
Yeah. Just a whole bunch of guts.
Yeah, basically, it's like a pile of guts in person form.
One big inflated hand, a big blob on the shoulder.
Yep, that's exactly
one regular hand.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. You can still do his
and
taxes.
The legs look fine. Yeah, I'll be honest. But yeah, it looks as if a man has exploded.
Yeah, and that's
it's like
pretty much
frozen
what it is.
in that explosion.
Yeah, it's like tumours and things all over it. It's pretty gross. So the Flood's taken over all these Marines. So Master Chief, he just starts charging at them because remember he's run out of ammo at this point. So during the fight, then another sort of big fight sort of breaks out because there's a whole bunch of infected Marines in here. During the fight, he manages to knock out one of the flooded Marines, and the Marine has my favourite gun of all, the Needler. So this is when we get to see the Needler. So the Needler, basically, for those that don't know, it's a Covenant gun that the Covenant have. And what it does, it fires these sort of heat-seeking pink shards that if you just fire it sort of they stick into someone and then they detonate and do like extra damage.
Is that what the spikes are?
Yeah, the spikes are like little these pink shards and they sinew and then they blow up. It's It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
It's
that's
very
pretty
cool. So he finally has the needler and he starts sort of laying into all these infected Marines and they start sort of popping off, which is good. But then he gets rid of the needler. Which is
So it's just a needler cameo.
yeah, little needler cameo.
Yeah.
That's for the sequel. It's called Halo Needler. I'm assuming that would have got made. But then he sees one of the Marines in the backpack of the Marines in the infected. There's a shotgun.
I just want to ask though, as a big needler fan,
Yep.
would you have been satisfied with the small needler cameo?
No.
Yeah.
I want Needler 24/7.
It's kind of like Wolverine. They keep teasing his
I
outfit
know.
every now and then. And then at one time he just opens a case and it's like, oh, that's my uniform. And then they cut that
Put it
scene out of the
away.
film.
It's very the Needler is the Wolverine of the Halo universe. Really.
It's the yellow and brown Wolverine costume.
Yeah, exactly. So now he's got the shotgun. He's got the classic Marine shotgun, and it says in the script he's now found the perfect weapon to blow away the Flood Marines.
But again, I love that Alex Garland writes that line and gives it to you and goes, visualize that.
Yeah, there you go. By the way,
Visualize that internal
By the
thought.
way, it's the perfect weapon. Okay, just put that on the screen. So finally, the room is empty. Master Chief is alone again. He gets out a med kit and he heals up. And then he makes his way back towards the surface.
Does he remember the morphine this time?
Well, it's probably just morphine. He's just hooking it to his veins. Halfway through another large chamber, he peers through a door, like there's sort of a crack in the door.
He's Sneaky Boy.
Sneaky Boy. He's gone Sneaky Boy mode. And he sees through the crack, he sees hundreds of infected Marines and Covenant, right? So the Flood, it's an equal opportunity alien.
Yeah.
It just takes over everyone. So they're all sort of shuffling along and they're sort of ignoring because they can't see him at this point. And then we see this sort of blue light emerge from behind Master Chief. And we assume, oh, Cortana's back.
Yeah.
That's the blue light from Cortana.
That's what I'm assuming right now.
No, don't assume that. Master Chief spins around with his gun. He sees a metal, sort of silver orb with a little blue light on the front. And it's cheery.
Ooh.
It says to him, lower your primitive weapon. I require your assistance. So it's sort of an up and about sort of thing. And he's like, what? Who is this guy? It's like, this is really strange. Then several other robotic devices appear, sort of all around him. And Master Chief is like, well, how are we going to get out of this situation? And then the other robotic devices, called the Sentinels, they're sort of triangle in shape, they suddenly smash through the door and just annihilate every single Flood in there. They just blow them all away. So it's fine.
So he's discovered this sentient robotic force.
Yeah, that's just sort of come up and said to him, look, I need your help. And he's really cheery.
Yeah.
He's a lovely guy.
Let me introduce myself. I am the monitor of Installation 04. I am 343 Guilty Spark. Someone has released the Flood. My function is to prevent it from leaving this installation. In order to do that, you will have to follow me. These Sentinels will cover our escape.
Where do you want me to go?
To the control room, of course.
The control room. The control room of Halo.
Yes,
And when we get there, you're gonna show me how to use it.
naturally. What odd questions you ask.
Lead the way.
This installation was specifically built to contain and study the Flood.
Halo is a laboratory.
In a sense, but it was also a means to ensure the survival of the race. There was no desire to eradicate the Flood. The desire was to prevent it from eradicating anything else. But now, it seems that decision may have been an error, which is why it is fortunate that sterilization protocols still remain in place. Oh, here we are.
What is this place?
It is the library. The installation's research facilities are our most impressive. Perhaps you will have time to see them later.
Just get me to the control room.
It is located in the library's core, and I am in as much of a hurry to reach it as you. Please follow me.
Oh, there we go.
He's got a friend though.
He's got a great friend.
He can't stop getting robotic sidekicks.
No, exactly. It's like if he loses one, another one's just
one
going to pop up
disappears.
just instantaneously. So he's met Guilty Spark
Yep.
now, and Guilty Spark's what has he sort of told him?
Well,
What's your understanding of it?
the Flood, they've been contained there.
Yep.
Now they've kind of been somewhat released, and he's saying, well, we got to stop them getting out. And he said that their mission wasn't to eradicate them, but just to stop them eradicating the rest of the universe.
Correct. So now they're going deep into the library to
Yes.
like sort of the central control hub of all of Halo.
And you know what? He's facing a almost certainly apocalyptic outcome if he fails, but he's got a good attitude about it.
Oh, he's so upbeat. So they make their way down passage after passage until they reach the far end of the library. Now, they're stuck next to a large security door. And Guilty Spark, he says that, I can't access this from this side because the flood are coming and I need to sort of go around and take the long way. He said, you wait here, Master Chief. I'll sort of go all the way around and open the door from the other side. He then floats off into the night. Master Chief is left there by himself. And then he hears the slithering noise again.
Oh, no.
And because it's been about 2 minutes since he last fought the flood, it's time to fight the flood again. But this time, it describes this is a flood battle. They again start coming in waves. Yep. So it's not gushing, it's waves this time. So they're coming in waves through the far end of the library. And this time the battle, it's in slow-mo.
Ooh.
Yes. So think sort of that 300 battle scene, he's sort of walking through and it's really stylized. And so that's sort of what this one is. He switches between using all of his weapons so far. So he's got the shotgun.
But the shotgun was the perfect weapon.
Yeah, but only for certain types of flood, only for marine flood. This has got all different ones. So he's got the needless steel, he's got grenades, and it's all, remember, slow-mo. It's described in the script as the most extreme combat of anything we have seen so far in this film.
Extreme is a good word.
That's what it says.
Because this is early 2000s. That's also the era of the X Games.
Oh, all of that.
So this will be the X Games of action scenes.
He's doing kick flips. He's doing half pipes.
Though the X Games of action films is Triple X, obviously.
Oh, yeah, obviously.
It was legitimately described as James Bond for the X Games generation. Which really puts it in an era, doesn't it?
Was the second Triple X called like Next Level or?
Yeah, Triple X 2. Yeah, was it the Next Level? And then the Return of Xander Cage.
Return of Xander Cage, exactly. But wait,
we digress.
We digress. Let's get back to the flood in this slow-mo battle. At the end of the battle,
sorry, Triple X 2 State of the Union.
Oh, is that
yes?
I'm so glad we got that and avoid emails of people coming in.
We digress.
We digress. This battle ends with sort of Master Chief in a bloodlust, right? Mm-hmm. So he's slow-mo. He starts howling in rage as he tears apart all the flood around him. And then the security door opens and he sort of backs his way through to join sort of Guilty Spark, and then the door sort of closes behind him. They blow the bridge up and all the flood floor down. It sort of throws that away in the script. So now we're in the Halo control console. This is the main hub. And Guilty Spark's there and he's sort of talking Master Chief through what they have to do next.
Unfortunately, my usefulness in this endeavor has now come to an end. Protocol does not allow for a unit of my classification to perform a task as important as activation sequence. That final task is reserved for you.
What do I do?
Everything is in place. Simply place your hand on the reader so that your sentient organic status can be confirmed. Then sterilization will begin. Please, do not delay. I do not understand.
Yeah, you don't.
Please explain.
I came here to destroy this weapon, to prevent it falling into the hands of the Covenant, and you want me to use it?
To destroy it? Impossible. Unthinkable. Are you in any doubt of the flood's virulent nature? I am aware that you are presently involved in a war with the other species of the installation. Let me assure you that your war is nothing in comparison to the consequence of the flood's expansion. The flood absorbs the knowledge and the intelligence of all those forms it occupies. It will use your spaceships and the spaceships of your enemies. It will spread itself far and wide. Nothing will stop it. No system, no planet, no corner of the galaxy will be spared. And once the galaxy is lost, the universe will follow. Ah, you've done it. You've activated the ring. Excellent.
This is going to kill me too, isn't it?
Oh yes, absolutely.
Cortana!
Odd, that wasn't supposed to happen.
And I imagine this wasn't either.
Cortana, wait! He's on our side.
On our side? On our side? Do you have any idea what it almost made you do?
Yes, activate Halo's defense and destroy the flood.
You have no idea how this ring works, why the Forerunners built it. Halo doesn't kill the flood. It kills their food. Us. Left out that little detail, did you?
Is this shroom?
More or less. The installation's pulse has an effective range of 25,000 light years. All sentient life within that radius would be sterilized.
Sterilized? Every man, woman, and child, Earth, our colonies, our entire race, our entire history, all would be annihilated. Not to mention any other species caught in the net.
Your arguments are pointless. Sterilization is the only certain means to contain a flood release. The flood is released. Ergo, we must activate the ring.
If we activate the ring, everything is pointless. There has to be another way.
Agreed.
Oh. So who did he shoot there at the end?
Master Chief, he shot Guilty Spark in his little blue
Thank God,
face. The major plan has been sort of foiled that Guilty Spark was actually going to kill everyone in the universe so the Flood couldn't eat anyone else. Master Chief, he's shotgunned Guilty Spark in his little eye socket, and then he and Cortana sort of make their way out to these elevator discs. So they get on these elevator discs and they sort of start making their escape. Now Cortana explains she was seduced by the power of the Forerunner's tech, and she apologizes to Master Chief for her actions. And he sort of has a little bit of fun with her there. He's like, "Oh, it almost sounds like you're worried that you hurt my feelings." And all this sort of stuff. And she's like, "Oh no," she goes red. She's blue, but she goes red. And then he says, "Well, you saved the galaxy from extinction, so let's call it even." Yeah, that's good. But it's not over yet. Mm-hmm. We then cut back to the library control chamber, and the Guilty Spark's blue eye flashes back on, and he floats towards the surface. Master Chief and Cortana, they make it to the surface, and they see a ravaged Halo. Everyone is dead, Marines, Covenant alike, just everyone around him. Well, not quite everyone, as suddenly Fohammer flies down from the sky in her dropship. She sort of lands.
She's been a bit of a non-entity thus far.
Oh, mate, she hasn't really done a lot. She's flown them around.
She turned up, his heart went aflutter. He mentions, oh yeah, she saved me way back when.
Yeah, she doesn't have a lot to do.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of female conversations.
Oh, I dare say this doesn't pass the Bechdel test.
No, not at all. No. Not at all. But they do understand now that if the Flood gets off Halo, nothing will be able to stop it.
Yep.
So if they can take out Halo, then that should take the Flood out without having to sterilize the entire sort of universe, basically. They just need to make a big enough explosion. And they look off into the distance at the pillar of autumn. It's still crashed on the side of Halo. Fohammer turns to Cortana.
Is a cruiser's fusion reactor a big enough explosion?
Yeah, exactly. So basically,
they're going to blow up
the boat. Yeah, exactly. So as they're having this conversation, we see snow start falling as Halo's weather systems have started to break down.
Yeah, okay.
So all the weather controls, and it gives an opportunity for us to have like a fight in snow now.
Yeah,
so it's going through all the different areas of Halo, which is it's actually pretty cool. This whole end part is now just in snow. Yeah. So are you ready to lock yourself in? Because
let me strap myself in. All right, there we go.
This end part.
So I'm scared I'm going to fall off my seat with excitement. So I've strapped myself in.
There's a lot sort of coming in this last little bit now. It's pretty one after another.
Yeah. If you're listening to this driving in the car, pull over.
Yeah, definitely pull over.
Pull over.
Because you may have a feeling to get your warthog on two wheels as you mow down Covenant. Now, Master Chief and Cortana, they start making their way towards the Pillar of Autumn, right? Mm-hmm. They're in the dropship and they're sort of there, and they get sort of dropped off just near it, and they sort of make their way in.
Yep.
They walk past some corridors and they see piles of dead, rotting bodies. They're still sort of moving and shuffling these bodies. The Flood has sort of kept them alive. Now, Master Chief, he puts them out of their living hell with his sort of assault rifle. He sort of shoots them all. They're at peace now. But they've sort of seen that there's all these little littered bodies all over the place. And they get the feeling that they're being sort of funneled in a certain direction. So the idea, they need to make their way to the bridge so Cortana can set the self-destruct sequence for the Pillar of Autumn. They're making their way there. Then they see the bridge. The door sort of half hanging off, the sparks are sort of flying, the lights are going on and off. They walk to the main door, they open it up and they walk inside, and they feel a presence in the bridge with them. Then, out of the shadows, appears Captain Keyes, but not as we know him.
Is he a flood marine?
Yeah, big time. But not more than that, though. He still has sort of his manliness, but his flesh is all like green and black and sort of decaying and stuff. But he doesn't have the tumors or anything sort of crazy
so
like that.
He's still more humanoid.
Yeah, correct. He stands in the shadows motionless, just watching them in silence. And then he steps forward, and the light of the sparks sort of highlight his face, and you can really see the little bits of decaying flesh and stuff on his face. It looks, he doesn't have the tumors, but it still looks sort of gross. And then Cortana speaks to him.
Who are you?
I am a monument to all your sins. I am the flood. Across this universe, new species fall in and out of existence. They're born, they prosper, they pass into extinction, and they leave nothing behind but dust and echoes. I outlive them all. The lifespan of stars are my days. My containment within this prison has been a single night. But you would destroy me.
So there's something that I think comes up in every cancelled movie report, and we've not had one yet. It's a villain monologue.
Yeah, exactly. It's monologuing. Love a villain monologue.
Have we had an episode yet without one?
No, definitely not.
No, and we wouldn't want to.
No, I'd put it in. I'd just make it up and add it to the film. Who's going to know? The film never got made.
That's true. Hopefully people don't fact check us too much on this.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, I read this script afterwards. You know what's doing villain monologue?
Yeah. The one thing that we haven't checked in on a while is a dream sequence. Because we flash into another dream sequence at this point. But it's a hallucination created by Keyes to torment Master Chief. Right? We're reliving the fall of Planet Reach. Keyes berates Master Chief, saying his failure is real. You failed all of humanity. There are bodies sort of falling all around them, men, women, children, sort of all dying around him. Keyes starts to expand in size. Tendrils curl out of him, and they start to snake around to Master Chief. Keyes says,
"You need to know only this. Succumb to me, I offer you immortality. Your body will rot, but your memories will live in me."
We then flash to Master Chief's face, eyes, skin, battle-worn, beaten, scarred.
So we see his face.
We see little bits of his face, like zoomed in bits of his face. And then he replies,
You see, that's where you're wrong. I don't need to know shit.
That's like the ultimate.
That's his
line.
arc. That's his arc. His character arc as he learns that he doesn't need to know shit.
And then Cortana says it to him later on, and then he finally embraces the fact that he doesn't need to know shit because the Flood says, "You need to know only this," and he goes, "I don't need to know shit." I think it's pretty good writing, Cambo. Yeah. You've got to admit that. He's bringing it all around. It's pretty good. And at that point, the hallucination shatters.
Sorry, just Alex sitting at the laptop, the executive over his shoulder, and you want me to put, "I don't need to know shit"?
Yeah. That's good.
Oh, all right.
He's putting the absolute shit line. Bill Gates will be happy. So then the hallucination shatters, and they're back on the bridge. Master Chief, he raises his MA5B assault rifle.
Right,
and he empties an entire clip into Keyes' rotting body. The form bursts and bubbles, disintegrates and explodes all over the bridge. Master Chief, he reaches down and he grabs Keyes' dog tag from the rotting corpse. He stares at them, he looks at the name, he has a moment of reflection, and then he closes his fist around it. I don't know what that's trying to do. He's like, Keyes is a pretty good guy. He means a lot to him.
He's remembering his friends.
Yeah, exactly. It's just an odd little moment to sort of put in there. Humanizes Master Chief, maybe.
Pulling off the dog tags of a dead soldier, though. Classic action
That's a classic action film. That's a classic action film.
And because they never take it off the neck. They yank it off.
Or they pull it out of the rotting corpse flesh.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Cortana manages to set the reactor to overload, and a countdown appears on screen. 10 minutes and counting. "Let's get the hell out of here," says Master Chief, as he turns and runs out the door. "Don't worry, Chief. There's more than enough time to..." She stops. A hum is heard. And who is it? It's our old friend, Guilty Spark. Yeah, he's back. Then Master Chief says,
Why is everything so bloody hard to kill around here?
another good line. He then sighs. Guilty Spark is disappointed that they chose to destroy the installation. He finds it illogical. They leave him no alternative. Suddenly, a bunch of these triangled sentinels sort of appear out of nowhere, and they start opening fire with lasers. Master Chief dives for cover. The lasers burst open the bridge. Suddenly, the blizzard that's outside flies in, so there's snow and everything going everywhere. There's lasers firing out. Master Chief smashes through a sidewall and scrambles for cover behind the bulkheads. Lasers are flying all around them. Master Chief, he throws a grenade back into the bridge room as he runs. We hear Guilty Spark laughing as it explodes. The sentinels, left and right of them, blasting away. Master Chief, he has his shotgun, he's shooting one after another, but there's just too many of them. Cortana realizes they have a bigger problem than just these sentinels. The Flood are closing in as well. Master Chief dives down a corridor. He looks to his left. He sees a Flood army of infected Marines. He looks to his right. He sees a Flood army of elites. In front of him, the sentinels are closing in. What's he going to do? It's a trap. Cortana then realizes...
Look down, Chief, look down!
He looks down. There, he's standing on top of a panel beneath him. He gets his shotgun, he blows the panel off, and he falls into the ventilation shaft. He bounces and slides down the shaft in near blackness. He bursts into light as he shoots out into the open air, falling 20 meters to the ground. He picks himself up quickly. They're in the lower deck, subsection 5. They see a monitor. The countdown continues. Master Chief touches his comlink.
Bowhammer, you read me? I'm not gonna make it to the rendezvous. You get out of here.
Don't you know me by now? I don't leave soldiers behind. See you at the rendezvous. That's an order.
Right, so she's going to wait for him
She knows how to talk to
no
a
matter
Marine.
what. Yeah, oh, big time. Cortana interrupts him. There may still be half a chance of survival. Lower deck, subsection 5. Do you know what's in here? Vehicle storage. Master Chief walks over to one of the doors, swings it open, and we see a pristine and fully fueled up Warthog ready to go.
Lovely, because I was disappointed with the lack of Warthog so far.
Yeah, don't worry. This is ultimate Warthog scene.
Great.
So, how long we've got left?
5 minutes left.
So buckle up for this last escape.
I'm going to put a second belt on.
Yeah, could you actually?
And
One
if you're driving and you've pulled over, get out of your car.
burn your car. So we cut to Master Chief at the wheels of the Warthog, drifting around corners in the vehicle storage bay. And in the script now, it actually says, what follows is a real-time white-knuckle drive through the Pillar of Autumn, pure choreographed action, a recreation of the final level of the game. Cortana provides a countdown. So now this is live 5 minutes. This last 5 minutes is him with the constant clock.
Wow.
Like making his way through here. It's pretty
That's
cool. The ship's exploding all around them. Collapsing, there's fire, there's explosions. They're mowing through sort of battles because there's still Covenant sort of around battling Flood. So they're sort of fighting each other. Jackals and grunts sort of bounce off the front of the Warthog. One of them gets crushed under the wheels. A plasma grenade gets thrown and sort of blasts the Warthog onto 2 wheels. And it's sort of doing a 2-reel sort of, it hits a few more Jackals on the way through. Then suddenly an elite jumps on the Warthog. Master Chief unloads a clip right into his face. The Warthog then bursts onto the upper level of the ship's landing deck. They see Foehammer. There's 1 minute left. The Flood are all around them. Infected vessels are like a sea closing in behind them. An explosion under the Warthog lifts the vehicle into the air. Master Chief jumps out of the vehicle mid-air, sails all the way towards the Pelican, lands just 20 meters away, does a roll, stands back up, and dives into the rear hatch. He closes the hatch behind him just as wave after wave of Flood crash into it.
Punch it, Foehammer.
He turns around, but he sees her standing directly behind him. Her expression is strange, and then blood comes out of her mouth.
You can't catch a break, this guy.
She says,
I'm sorry.
as her body is tossed aside and a long spike is removed. There, standing behind her, is the infected form of Major Silvia.
I was wondering where he was, because he disappeared off camera.
Yeah, I know, but he's still there. They all come back as Flood, mate. And then, as if in a rage that the death of Foehammer has just been too much, with a close-up shot of Master Chief's hand. He's tightly grabbing a grenade. Suddenly, his fist shoots out and literally plunges into Silvia's chest. He withdraws his empty fist. A beat. Body explodes.
Great.
It's great.
Great
It's
last use of a
bang and
plasma
then bang,
grenade.
bang. It's pretty good, yeah.
Chief, let's go. 15 seconds.
He dives into the cockpit. We then cut to an outer space shot just above Halo. Suddenly, a bright light flashes. Then a secondary shockwave rips through the structure. Part of it collapses in on itself. A huge explosion then forms, and then parts of the ring start to shatter off across this sort of open space. And all we see a tiny, tiny little ship making its way out of the explosion. It's the Pelican. Master Chief made it, and he's the only one left alive. He asks Cortana, did anyone else make it off? She shakes her head and says, just dust and echoes. That's all that's left. Now, there's nothing else to do but head back to Earth. Cortana quickly does some calculations. In this ship, it should take them approximately 163,000 years to make it back to Earth. Master Chief looks out the window.
But what about that one?
He points towards the shape of a vast Covenant capital ship floating in space. The tiny dropship then turns towards the capital ship, engages its engines, ready to attack. Blackout. Finn. Now, what's interesting, and I don't believe we've had one of these yet on Cancelled Movie Report, we have a post-credit scene.
Oh!
Yes. That is listed in the script. So after all the credits, it then goes black again, and then we cut to amongst the debris of Halo, we hear a humming. And then suddenly, from left to right of screen, Guilty Spark sort of floats across. He stops center screen and he faces the audience and says, oh, hello. Cut to black again. And that's it. Not the best post-credit scene.
But this is early days post-credit
Yeah,
scenes.
exactly, because this is 2005.
Yeah.
So they didn't quite know what you could do
They're
to sort of
quite
set up stuff.
slick at them now.
Yeah, exactly.
But back then, that would have probably blown our minds.
That would have blown my mind, mate. So, Cambo, that is Halo the movie. What are your initial thoughts? What are your feelings?
Needs a trim.
Yeah?
Yeah. There's a lot of movie in it. There's about 3 movies in it.
There's a lot of action sequences in it.
Yeah, and it's very evident that it's a video game because it's just like level after level.
I'm so glad you brought that up because when I was reading it, that's exactly what I thought. It's like, okay, this is the docking bay bit where waves of enemies will come at you. You'll have to kill them all, and then you go to the next section. And it does feel like that.
It makes complete sense to me that he had to write to a brief and Microsoft were like, we want every level represented.
Yeah.
Because Alex Garland's a good screenwriter. He could have probably stripped some of it out and made quite a tight story.
Can imagine seeing an elite on screen with his laser sword and all that sort of stuff. People would be popping all over the place.
Designed by Weta Workshops, by the way. We haven't really touched on that.
No, exactly. So you can imagine the CGI and everything in it.
Just even the costume design and everything would have been top notch.
Awesome, exactly. And all the crazy creatures. The flood would have looked amazing.
This is one of the things I know about this is over the years, like videos have leaked. They had like fully functional warthogs that they were driving around.
Oh yeah,
they had weapons. I guess we'll get into what happened to the weapons they designed in a second. But they had designed weapons. They had designed prototype aliens. Again, just a backwards way to try and make a movie.
It's so crazy because they were in turnaround for so long. Like they started making props and making things because they're like, well, we'll eventually get to do this.
Well, then what happened to those props, Eden?
Okay.
What was to happen to the corpse of this movie?
Okay, so basically it all comes down to Microsoft having an inability to let go of their baby. And that's really what it comes down to. They were so obsessed with doing it themselves and making sure it gets done exactly how they wanted to. They put all these impossible things in the way. So like they wanted $10 million up front plus 15% of the box office gross. And they wanted a $120 million budget and it would be fast tracked into production. So basically instantly started to be made. Yeah. So they put all these demands because remember our Spartan Warriors were giving out the script. Yeah. So they were putting all these demands out. And it was a ridiculous request. But I think the craziest of all was when they handed the scripts over, they gave each studio 24 hours to make the deal. Otherwise, it would be taken off the table. Can you imagine that?
What are they doing?
So it's like, so most of them
here's this project you're not interested in. You got 24 hours.
Okay, no. You've got to sell it
What
to me.
studio did it end up?
Well, I'll tell you that. So most of them just passed straight away, right?
And rightly so.
And rightly so. But Universal and Fox, they actually came together because what Microsoft didn't understand is they actually thought they could play studios off against each other and create like a bidding war, which is something that you don't really do in that sort of world. Like in video games, they can sort of do it. You play off against PlayStation and they've got their own titles and everything like that. But the studios didn't want to borrow that. They're like, we're not creating a bidding war.
Yeah.
And so Fox and Universal, they said, we'll just come together and we'll put this agreement on the table and we say, do you want to make this film? Because this is what we're offering you. So even with Peter Jackson, even when he came on board, they were like, great, we've got Peter Jackson. Everyone's on board now. So then they had Neil, obviously, came on.
Yep.
Microsoft weren't a massive fan of Neil. They thought he was too young, too green and everything like that. But Peter said, no, this guy is really good. Yep. But then Microsoft slowly started to push the narrative. They started to go, no, we want more rewrites of the script. We pushed the production back. They the budget started to sort of skyrocket at this point. Everything was put on hold for so long. So it was like 8 months passed, but they hadn't really done anything. They made some sets and everything like that, and some guns and everything.
Some commercials.
Exactly, and they had all this stuff around. And so they said to Neil, do you want, like you talked about before, do you want to just make some short films that we can just do for Halo's 3 release? Which, if you want to see what possibly this film could have been,
they look great.
Landfall is the name of them. There's 3 of them, and they're awesome.
I remember them from the time. They're fantastic.
They're absolutely fantastic, and that is really what we missed out on. Like when we see that, that's probably the closest thing we'll ever get to getting this film. So what basically ended up happening is Microsoft were in there every day trying to demand sort of things and ask what's happening and changing things. They were burning money left and right. Universal, they sort of said, yep, look, we'll talk to Microsoft, we'll sort it out. They didn't sort it out. Microsoft held strong. They're like, this is our crown jewel. This is our IP. We get the final say on absolutely everything. They wanted to create sort of their own sort of film studio. You know how Marvel ended up just going, you know what, we'll just do it ourselves. And they did it themselves and it worked really well.
Like Thanos putting on the glove.
Yeah.
Fine. I'll do it myself.
Yeah, exactly. But this, they just didn't have the skills and they didn't have
they didn't have their Kevin Feige.
No, exactly. So as a result, everything slowed down to a snail's pace and it started to cost so much money that everyone just pulled out. So everyone just took their money and ran at that point. Even Neil, like it's not all sad because then Neil and Peter Jackson, they decided, you know what, we're going to get something good out of this. Let's go on and make a film together, and he made District 9.
Well, I mean, most of you probably know the backstory that we, for a period of time, were intending to make a feature film adaptation of the Halo video game, but you know, Neil, we thought would be absolutely terrific choice to direct it. So Neil shifted down to New Zealand with his partner and child, and basically, you know, became a New Zealander for several months, and then Halo just suddenly basically dropped dead on its feet due to studio politics, with conceptual art, with monsters, with creatures. We've got all this Halo stuff down in New Zealand locked away in cabinets that no one's ever seen, which is really kind of quite stunning, all supervised by Neil. And then the movie fell over and we got kind of disillusioned with what happened. So we immediately thought, well, why don't we just try to take control of the situation in whatever way we're able to? And we suggested the idea of working on an original idea, something we could own, and that was really the genesis of District 9. I mean, it happened very quickly. We woke up in the morning thinking we were making Halo and went to bed that night making District 9.
Yeah, so from my understanding is because District 9 was the short film Alive in Johann.
Correct, Joburg, yep.
And they essentially said, look, we want to make a film. This film's fallen apart, but we have all these props and all these whatever. And District 9 is the reanimated carcass of Halo.
Exactly.
Like all the prototype weapons they had made, all the mech suits they had made.
100%. Everything that was going to be in there, they still had access to.
Yeah.
And when you watch like District 9, the thing that hits me is like, wow, this is really, like for a first-time director, this is some crazy stuff in this film. And it looks awesome.
And because the whole thing about District 9 is it's got a very small budget for the kind of big action film it is.
Yeah.
But that's because they didn't have to
do anything.
It was all
just in a
there.
shed.
It was
Exactly.
already.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's because that's what I've always known is that District 9 is what's come of Halo. It
Correct.
eventually evolved into District 9. But I'm actually seeing elements of it in other works that people that have worked on this that have done. So Alex Garland went on to write Sunshine after this. And one of the complaints people had about Sunshine is in the third act, it turns into this kind of crazy zombie chase.
Yep.
Which is kind of what this script does.
Yeah, this is the flood. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And the guy's got like boils and what, like he's gone sun crazy in Sunshine. Big ring in the sky. He put that in Elysium.
Love it.
He literally added a Halo into Elysium.
Yeah, exactly. Even though we did miss out on Halo, we've got these other sort of things in the background. And I've got a final quote from Neil himself. He's talking about sort of this experience again. When any young director gets hired by a studio to do a $125 million film based on a pre-existing piece of intellectual property, they're climbing into a meat grinder. And what are you coming out with on the other side? It's going to be generic, studio-controlled, basically a pile of garbage. And it's going to end up on the side of a bloody Burger King wrapper. So he was not a big fan. He put a line through it, but at the end of the day, he did get something out of it. And so we end, as always, Cambo, with deciding, so would we want to see this film?
I'm torn on this one.
Yep.
There's a lot of things I like about it, but part of me thinks that if I was to watch it, I'd walk out with like a headache. And I'd go, oh my God. Like, you know how sometimes you walk out of a Transformers movie and you're like, what happened?
Yeah, I have no recollection of the last 2.5 hours.
A part of me thinks that it's so intense that may have happened.
I'm sort of coming from a gaming background. Something like this, I would love to see on screen. But I think ultimately it just needs a bit of an edit. It just needs to be cut down and it just needs to be focused a little bit more.
The thing is, because I'm sure it's a common thing with video gamers to be like, just put the game on screen. Yeah. That's all you need to do. And I think that this would have been a testament to you'd make this movie exactly like the game and the gamers walk out of the cinemas and go, oh, that's why they don't.
Yeah, that is why they don't.
Well, we have come to the end of Peter Jackson's cancelled Halo movie report. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and in fact, we hope you enjoyed the whole series, and we would love it if you could subscribe, be it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you like to listen. Subscribing really honestly does help us get discovered in the charts. It would also be terrific if you could leave us a 5-star rating, or you know what, most importantly of all, just tell a friend. We're completely independent here at Cancelled Movie Report, so your support really does mean the world to us. A huge thank you to Steph Bendixsen and Gus Ronald for lending their voices this episode. We do encourage that if you enjoyed their work, go over, follow them on their channels and let them know how much you enjoyed it. What do you think of the movie so far, and have we missed anything? We would love to hear from you. You can always get in touch with us via cancelledmovies@gmail.com or @cancelledmovies on all of the socials. And hey, maybe there's a cancelled movie project you've always wanted to hear about. Why not let us know? You can fill out the form in the episode description alerting us to a project, and we may just give it the Cancelled Movie Report treatment. I'm Michael Campbell. I've hosted and edited this episode. Eden Porter was my co-host too, and we both produced the show. We'd also like to thank the rest of our amazing voice cast, all of which you'll find listed in the episode notes. Next week, we are talking about one of our most requested movies for this second season. That's right, we're talking about James Cameron's Spider-Man. But if you can't wait, here's a sneak peek.
Welcome to one of my favorite night spots. The service is slow, but the thing I like about it is it's not usually too crowded. It all looks so civilized from up here, doesn't it?
But until then, take care.